Throughout human history, there have been moments that defy every logical explanation we can muster. Events so bizarre, so impossible, that they challenge the very foundation of what we think we know about our world. These aren't just unsolved mysteries. These are phenomena that seem to mock our understanding of reality itself. What if I told you that somewhere in our world right now, there are things happening that shouldn't be possible according to everything we've learned about physics, biology, and the natural order? What if I told you that despite all our advanced technology and scientific knowledge, we're still no closer to understanding some of the most baffling mysteries on our planet? Today, we're diving deep into the most inexplicable mysteries that continue to baffle researchers, scientists, and investigators around the globe. These aren't your typical ghost stories or urban legends. These are documented phenomena with real evidence, real witnesses, and absolutely no rational explanations. By the end of this investigation, you might find yourself questioning everything you thought you knew about the world around us. But first, let me warn you. Once you learn about these mysteries, you'll never look at the world the same way again. Some of these cases are so disturbing, so impossible to comprehend, that they've driven researchers to the brink of madness, trying to find answers that simply don't exist. So fasten your seatbelt as we explore the most mind-bending mysteries that science cannot explain. The hum is perhaps one of the most widespread yet least understood phenomena plaguing our modern world. Imagine being tormented by a constant, low-frequency humming sound that never stops, never fades, and seems to have no identifiable source. Now imagine that only hear it. A small percentage of people can actually, while others in the exact same location, hear absolutely nothing. This isn't some mass hallucination or psychological condition. The hum has been documented in dozens of locations across the globe, from Taos, New Mexico, to Bristol, England, to Kokomo, Indiana. In each location, roughly 2 to 10% of the population reports hearing this maddening sound, described as similar to a distant diesel engine idling or electrical equipment running continuously. What makes the hum truly terrifying is its effects on those who can hear it. Victims report severe headaches, dizziness, nausea, and insomnia. Some have become so desperate for relief that they've abandoned their homes, moving hundreds of miles away, only to discover that the hum follows them. Others have suffered complete mental breakdowns, unable to cope with the relentless auditory torture. Scientists have deployed sophisticated acoustic equipment to these affected areas, measuring every possible frequency and sound source. They've examined everything from industrial machinery to underground gas pipes, from electromagnetic interference to seismic activity. The results are always the same. They find nothing that could explain the sound that's driving people to desperation. Even more disturbing, the hum doesn't behave like normal sound. It can't be blocked by earplugs or soundproofing. It seems to resonate from within the victims themselves, as if their own bodies have become unwilling receivers for some unknown transmission. Some researchers have theorized about extremely low-frequency radio waves or atmospheric phenomena, but none of these theories can explain why only certain individuals are affected, or why the sensation seems to originate from inside their heads, rather than from any external source. In Taos, the phenomenon became so severe that it attracted congressional attention. A team of scientists and engineers conducted an extensive investigation, using every piece of advanced detection equipment available. Their conclusion was as baffling as the mystery itself. The hum exists. People are genuinely suffering from it, but there is absolutely no identifiable cause. The Devil's Kettle Falls in Minnesota presents us with a geological impossibility that has stumped hydrologists and geologists for decades. At this waterfall, the Brule River splits into two streams. One half continues downstream as expected, following the natural course of the river. The other half disappears into a massive pothole in the rock, vanishing completely from sight. Where does this water go? It's a question that seems simple enough, but the answer has eluded scientists for generations. The missing water doesn't emerge anywhere downstream. It doesn't flow into any known underground river system. It doesn't resurface in any nearby lakes or springs. The water simply vanishes, as if the Earth itself is swallowing millions of gallons every single day. Researchers have attempted to trace the water's path using every method imaginable. They've dropped dye into the kettle, hoping to see it emerge somewhere downstream. The dye never appears. They've released ping-pong balls, logs, and even GPS tracking devices into the swirling vortex. Nothing ever surfaces. It's as if these objects pass through some kind of portal and cease to exist in our reality. The most disturbing theory suggests that the water is being absorbed into an underground cavern system, so vast and complex that it defies mapping. But even this explanation raises more questions than it answers. Where would such a massive underground void lead? How could it process such enormous volumes of water without creating any detectable geological effects? And why haven't any of the tracking devices or markers ever been recovered anywhere in the region? Some geological surveys have suggested that the water might be traveling through the rock itself, somehow being absorbed into the stone at a molecular level. This would require a type of rock porosity that doesn't exist anywhere else on Earth, making this explanation as impossible as the mystery itself. Local Native American legends speak of the Kettle as a gateway to the underworld, a place where the natural laws don't apply. While science typically dismisses such folklore, in this case, the supernatural explanation seems no more impossible than any of the theories proposed by modern geology. Moving from geological mysteries to biological impossibilities, we encounter the phenomenon of spontaneous human combustion. Throughout recorded history, there have been hundreds of documented cases of people suddenly bursting into flames with no external ignition source, burning so intensely that they're reduced to ash within minutes, yet leaving their surroundings completely untouched. These aren't cases of people catching fire from cigarettes or fireplaces. These are incidents where individuals, often elderly and alone, are found reduced to nothing but a small pile of ash and bone fragments, while newspapers on nearby tables remain unsinged and furniture just inches away shows no signs of heat damage. The most famous case occurred in 1951 when Mary Reeser was found in her St. Petersburg, Florida apartment. All that remained of the 67-year-old woman was her left foot, still wearing a slipper, and a small pile of ash. The chair she had been sitting in was destroyed, but the walls, ceiling, and nearby furniture were completely undamaged. The temperature required to reduce a human body to such complete ash is over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt copper and destroy concrete. Yet somehow, this inferno had been contained to just her chair. Fire investigators, coroners, and forensic scientists have studied these cases for decades, unable to provide any rational explanation. The human body is roughly 70% water, making it extremely difficult to ignite and sustain combustion. Even in crematoriums, where bodies are subjected to temperatures exceeding 1,800 degrees for several hours, bone fragments always remain and must be mechanically ground to ash. The wick effect has been proposed as one explanation, the idea that clothing acts as a wick while body fat serves as fuel, creating a slow, intense burn. However, this theory fails to explain the extreme temperatures involved, the complete consumption of bone matter, or why the fires don't spread to surrounding materials. Even more puzzling are the cases where victims appear to have been aware of their condition. Some have been found in positions suggesting they tried to reach water or call for help, yet there are never any signs of struggle or attempts to extinguish the flames. It's as if they were consumed so rapidly that they had no time to react. The mystery of the Antikythera mechanism takes us back over 2,000 years to challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. Discovered in 1901 by sponge divers off the Greek island of Antikythera, this corroded bronze device sat in museums for decades, dismissed as an ancient astrolabe or simple clock. It wasn't until the 1970s, when researchers began using X-ray imaging to peer inside the corroded mass, that they realized they were looking at something that should not have existed for another 1,500 years. The mechanism contained a complex system of at least 37 meshing bronze gears, designed to calculate the positions of the sun, moon, and planets with extraordinary precision. The sophistication of this ancient computer is staggering. It could predict eclipses, track the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games, and follow the complex elliptical orbit of the moon. The gear ratios demonstrate a mathematical understanding of planetary motion that we didn't think existed until the Renaissance. The craftsmanship required to create gears with teeth just millimeters wide, perfectly calibrated to mesh together in such intricate patterns, represents a level of precision that rivals modern manufacturing. What makes this discovery truly mind-bending is not just the advanced technology, but the complete absence of anything similar in the historical record. There are no other examples of gear-driven mechanisms from this period. There are no written descriptions of such devices in ancient texts. There are no evidence of the tools or techniques that would have been necessary to create such precise components. The mechanism appears in history like a technological anomaly, as if someone had dropped a modern computer into ancient Greece. Some researchers have suggested it represents a lost tradition of advanced mechanical engineering that somehow disappeared without leaving any other traces. Others have proposed that it was created by a single genius inventor whose secrets died with him. Recent research has revealed that the mechanism was even more sophisticated than initially believed, containing additional gear trains and calculating functions that we're still trying to understand. Each new discovery about its capabilities only deepens the mystery of how such advanced technology could have existed in isolation without any apparent technological foundation or legacy. The blood falls of Antarctica present us with one of the most visually striking and scientifically baffling phenomena on our planet. Deep in the dry valleys of Antarctica, a 5-story waterfall of blood-red liquid pours from the Taylor Glacier, staining the white ice with what looks like a scene from a horror movie. When this crimson cascade was first discovered in 1911, scientists assumed it was caused by red algae. This explanation seemed reasonable enough until researchers began studying the liquid more closely and discovered something far more mysterious and impossible. The red liquid isn't water-colored by algae. It's a brine so salty that it doesn't freeze even in Antarctic temperatures that would instantly crystallize normal water. The iron content is so high that it literally rusts upon contact with oxygen, creating the blood-red coloration. But where does this impossibly salty, iron-rich water come from in one of the most barren environments on Earth? Recent research has revealed that the source of blood falls is an underground lake that has been sealed beneath the glacier for over 2 million years. This ancient body of water, completely cut off from the outside world since before humans evolved, contains 3 times more salt than seawater and harbors microbial life forms that shouldn't be able to exist. These microorganisms have survived in complete darkness, with no oxygen, no light for photosynthesis, and no external food sources for millions of years. They've somehow learned to metabolize iron and sulfur compounds, creating a completely alien ecosystem that operates by rules we don't understand. The implications of this discovery extend far beyond Earth. If life can thrive in such extreme conditions for millions of years, completely isolated from traditional energy sources, it suggests that life might exist in similarly harsh environments throughout the universe. But it also raises disturbing questions about what other ancient, isolated ecosystems might exist beneath our planet's surface, harboring life forms that evolved in complete isolation from everything we know about biology. The mystery deepens when we consider how this underground lake maintains its liquid state. The pressure and salinity help prevent freezing, but the energy required to sustain an entire ecosystem for millions of years seems to violate our understanding of closed biological systems. The Marfa Lights of Texas have been taunting scientists and visitors for over a century, presenting us with a phenomenon that seems to mock our understanding of atmospheric physics. Every night, without fail, mysterious orbs of light dance across the desert horizon near the small town of Marfa, performing an aerial ballet that defies every attempt at explanation. These aren't your typical swamp gas or car headlight reflections. The Marfa Lights have been documented since the 1880s, long before automobiles existed in the region. They appear as brilliant spheres of white, yellow, orange, and red light, ranging in size from basketballs to small cars. They move with purpose and intelligence, splitting apart and rejoining, hovering motionless for hours, then suddenly racing across the sky at impossible speeds. What makes these lights truly inexplicable is their behavior. They seem to respond to observers, growing brighter when photographed, dimming when approached, and occasionally appearing to play games with witnesses. Multiple lights will converge, circle each other in perfect synchronization, then shoot off in opposite directions. They've been observed rising from the ground, descending from the sky, and Material State's Geological Survey has conducted extensive investigations, deploying out of thin air. They're uniting every piece of advanced detection equipment imaginable: infrared cameras, spectrometers, seismic monitors, and electromagnetic field detectors have all been trained on the phenomenon. The results are consistently baffling. The lights register on some instruments, while remaining completely invisible to others, suggesting they exist in a state that our current understanding of physics cannot accommodate. Temperature readings show the lights emit no heat despite their brilliant luminosity. They cast no shadows despite their intensity. They appear on radar occasionally, but never consistently. Some nights they're visible to the naked eye, but don't register on cameras. Other nights they're captured perfectly on film, while remaining invisible to observers standing in the exact same location. The most disturbing aspect of the Marfa Lights is their apparent intelligence. Local researchers have documented patterns in their appearances that suggest some form of consciousness or purpose. They tend to appear more frequently during certain weather conditions, but not in any way that correlates with known atmospheric phenomena. They seem to avoid areas with heavy human activity, yet occasionally put on spectacular displays for crowds of observers, as if performing for an audience. One of the most chilling documented cases occurred in 1973, when a group of geology students attempted to approach the lights on foot. As they drew closer, the lights began moving in formation toward them, growing larger and brighter. The students reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and fled back to their vehicles. When they looked back, dozens of lights had appeared, arranged in a perfect grid pattern across the desert, pulsing in unison before slowly fading away. Moving from the deserts of Texas to the laboratories of quantum physics, we encounter the phenomenon of quantum entanglement, which Einstein himself called spooky action at a distance. While this might seem like established science rather than an unsolved mystery, the implications of quantum entanglement are so fundamentally disturbing to our understanding of reality that many physicists refuse to fully accept what their own experiments demonstrate. When two particles become entangled, they maintain an instant connection regardless of the distance separating them. Measuring one particle immediately affects its partner, whether they're separated by inches or by entire galaxies. This connection occurs faster than the speed of light. In fact, it appears to be instantaneous, violating what we thought was a fundamental law of the universe. Recent experiments have pushed this phenomenon to its absolute limits, creating entangled particles and separating them by hundreds of miles. When researchers manipulate one particle, its partner responds instantly, with no detectable delay. This suggests that either information can travel faster than light, or that space and time aren't what we think they are, or that reality itself is far stranger than our current models can accommodate. The most unsettling aspect of quantum entanglement is what it implies about the nature of existence itself. If particles can maintain instant connections across any distance, what does this mean for our understanding of cause and effect? What does it mean for our concept of individual objects existing independently in space? Some physicists have suggested that entanglement reveals that everything in the universe is fundamentally connected at a level we can barely comprehend. The mystery deepens when we consider consciousness. Some researchers have theorized that quantum entanglement might explain phenomena like telepathy or precognition, suggesting that human consciousness itself might operate through quantum mechanisms we don't understand. While mainstream science rejects these ideas, the underlying quantum mechanics remain just as mysterious and impossible to truly comprehend. The Hessdalen lights phenomenon in Norway represents one of the most thoroughly documented and scientifically studied unexplained aerial phenomena in the world. For over 40 years, the remote Hessdalen Valley has been home to mysterious lights that appear with such regularity that scientists have established a permanent research station to study them. Unlike the sporadic appearances of other unexplained lights, the Hessdalen phenomenon occurs with clockwork precision. The lights appear several times per week, following patterns that researchers have been tracking since the 1980s. They range from small orbs to massive formations over 100 meters in length, displaying colors across the entire visible spectrum and beyond. What sets Hessdalen apart from other light phenomena is the sheer volume of scientific data collected. Automated monitoring stations operate around the clock, capturing the lights on multiple types of cameras, radar systems, and spectrographic equipment. The data reveals something that challenges our fundamental understanding of how light and matter interact. The lights emit radiation across frequencies that shouldn't be possible for any known natural or artificial source. They display plasma-like properties while maintaining structural integrity that plasma cannot achieve. They generate magnetic fields while showing no signs of the electromagnetic emissions that should accompany such fields. Most disturbing of all, they occasionally appear to respond to the monitoring equipment itself, growing brighter when cameras focus on them or changing direction when radar locks onto them. Dr. Erling Strand, who has led the Hessdalen research project for decades, has published findings that read like science fiction. The lights appear to be composed of a form of matter that doesn't behave according to known physics. They can become solid enough to cast shadows, while simultaneously being transparent enough to see through. They generate heat signatures that don't correspond to their visible luminosity. They move with accelerations that would destroy any known material, yet maintain perfect structural coherence. The most chilling aspect of the Hessdalen research is what it suggests about our incomplete understanding of reality. Here is a phenomenon that occurs regularly, in a controlled environment, under constant scientific observation, yet it continues to defy every attempt at explanation. Each new piece of data only deepens the mystery, suggesting that we're dealing with something that operates by principles we haven't discovered yet. The phenomenon has attracted researchers from around the world, each bringing new equipment and theories, each leaving with more questions than answers. Some have suggested that Hessdalen sits on some kind of natural energy source that we don't understand. Others have theorized about interdimensional phenomena or consciousness-driven manifestations. The fact that such wild theories are being seriously considered by respected scientists speaks to just how impossible this phenomenon truly is. In the realm of human biology, we encounter the mystery of terminal lucidity, a phenomenon so impossible that it challenges everything we understand about brain function and consciousness. Terminal lucidity occurs when patients with severe dementia, Alzheimer's disease, or other degenerative brain conditions suddenly regain complete mental clarity in the hours or days before their death. These aren't cases of brief moments of recognition or temporary improvements. Patients who haven't spoken coherently in years suddenly engage in complex conversations. Individuals who couldn't remember their own names begin recounting detailed memories from decades past. People who required constant care for basic functions suddenly demonstrate complete awareness of their surroundings and circumstances. Dr. Michael Nahm, who has studied this phenomenon extensively, has documented cases that seem to violate everything we know about neuroscience. Brain scans of these patients show extensive damage to the areas responsible for memory, language, and consciousness. According to our current understanding of neurology, these individuals should be incapable of coherent thought, yet they demonstrate mental clarity that often surpasses their condition from years before their illness began. The most disturbing cases involve patients whose brains show such severe deterioration that they should be in vegetative states. CT scans reveal massive tissue loss, destroyed neural pathways, and complete atrophy of areas crucial for higher brain function. Yet these individuals suddenly demonstrate not just awareness, but enhanced cognitive abilities, discussing complex topics and displaying insights they never possessed even in perfect health. One documented case involved an elderly woman with advanced Alzheimer's who hadn't recognized her family members in over 3 years. 2 days before her death, she suddenly sat up in bed and began discussing philosophy with a depth and sophistication that amazed her daughter, who was a university professor. She demonstrated knowledge of subjects she had never studied and spoke with an eloquence she had never possessed, even in her youth. The phenomenon suggests that consciousness might not be generated by the brain in the way we assume. If a severely damaged brain can suddenly produce enhanced mental function, what does this mean for our understanding of where consciousness comes from? Some researchers have theorized that the brain might act more like a receiver than a generator of consciousness, and that terminal lucidity occurs when some unknown interference is removed. Even more unsettling is the timing. Terminal lucidity almost always occurs just before death, as if some part of the dying person knows exactly when their time is approaching. This suggests a level of bodily awareness that we don't understand, operating through mechanisms that remain completely mysterious. The implications extend far beyond medicine. If consciousness can operate independently of brain function, if awareness can exist despite massive neural damage, then our entire materialist understanding of human existence might be fundamentally flawed. We might be dealing with aspects of human nature that science hasn't even begun to explore. The bloop remains one of the most haunting mysteries of our oceans, a sound so massive and inexplicable that it forced scientists to question whether something unimaginably large lurks in the deepest parts of our planet. In 1997, hydrophones placed throughout the Pacific Ocean by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration detected an ultra-low frequency sound unlike anything ever recorded. The sound was so powerful that it was picked up by sensors over 3,000 miles apart. To put this in perspective, the loudest animal on Earth, the blue whale, can only be heard across distances of a few hundred miles. The bloop was detected across an area larger than the continental United States, suggesting a source of unthinkable proportions. What makes the bloop truly terrifying is not just its volume, but its characteristics. The sound displayed biological properties. It rose and fell in frequency patterns consistent with living creatures rather than geological events. Yet for any animal to produce such a sound, it would need to be several times larger than the biggest blue whale ever recorded. We're talking about a creature that would dwarf a city block. Marine biologists initially dismissed the idea of an unknown sea creature, but the acoustic signature refused to fit any known geological phenomenon. Underwater volcanic activity, iceberg movements, and tectonic shifts all produce distinctly different sound patterns. The bloop's frequency modulation suggested something breathing, something calling, something alive. For years, researchers deployed additional monitoring equipment throughout the Pacific, hoping to record the bloop again. They never did. Whatever produced that earth-shaking call fell silent, leaving behind only the haunting recording and thousands of unanswered questions. Some scientists later claimed the sound came from ice movement in Antarctica, but this explanation fails to account for the biological characteristics that made the bloop so distinctive. The silence that followed might be even more disturbing than the original sound. If something that massive existed in our oceans, where did it go? Did it die? Did it retreat to depths we haven't explored? Or is it still out there, waiting in the abyssal darkness, having learned to stay quiet? From the depths of our oceans, we turn to the heights of our atmosphere, where pilots and radar operators have documented phenomena that challenge our understanding of physics and technology. The Tic Tac UFO incidents, officially acknowledged by the US military, present us with objects displaying flight characteristics that seem to mock our laws of aerodynamics. In 2004, Commander David Fravor encountered an object off the coast of California that defied every principle of flight known to modern aviation. The craft, described as smooth and white, like a Tic Tac candy, demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't be possible with any known technology. It accelerated from a complete stop to supersonic speeds without any visible propulsion system. It made instantaneous 90-degree turns that would generate G-forces capable of liquefying any human pilot. Most disturbing of all, the object seemed to predict Fravor's movements. When he attempted to intercept it, the craft would anticipate his maneuvers, positioning itself exactly where he was heading before he even began turning. It was as if the object could read his intentions or see slightly into the future. The radar data from multiple military installations confirmed what Fravor witnessed visually. The object dropped from 60,000 feet to just above sea level in less than a second. Such rapid altitude changes would require accelerations of thousands of Gs, forces that would instantly destroy any known material. Yet the craft maintained perfect structural integrity while performing these impossible maneuvers. What makes these incidents truly unsettling is their official recognition. The Pentagon has released videos and confirmed that these objects display technology far beyond current human capabilities. Military officials have stated on record that these craft demonstrate propulsion systems and material science that we don't understand. The implications are staggering. Either we're dealing with technology developed in complete secrecy that represents advances decades beyond our current capabilities, or we're confronting something non-human. Both possibilities are equally disturbing and force us to reconsider what we think we know about the limits of physics and engineering. Even more chilling is the frequency of these encounters. Military personnel have revealed that such incidents occur regularly, suggesting that whatever intelligence operates these craft has been observing us for an extended period. The objects seem particularly interested in military installations and nuclear facilities, displaying a level of strategic awareness that implies purpose and intelligence. In the realm of human consciousness, we encounter the phenomenon of shared death experiences, events so impossible that they challenge our understanding of the boundary between life and death. These occur when perfectly healthy individuals suddenly experience the death process alongside someone who is actually dying, sharing visions, sensations, and experiences that shouldn't be possible. Dr. Raymond Moody, who coined the term, has documented hundreds of cases where family members, medical staff, or even complete strangers report being pulled into the dying person's experience. They describe leaving their own bodies, traveling through tunnels of light, encountering deceased relatives, and witnessing life reviews, all while remaining physically present and conscious in the hospital room. What makes shared death experiences truly inexplicable is that they're witnessed by multiple people simultaneously. Entire groups of family members report identical visions while maintaining completely normal vital signs and brain activity. They describe seeing the same deceased relatives, witnessing the same life events, and feeling the same overwhelming sense of peace and understanding. One documented case involved a hospice nurse who suddenly found herself experiencing a patient's death from the inside. She felt herself leaving her body, traveling through what she described as a cosmic tunnel filled with indescribable beauty. She witnessed the patient's entire life unfold before her, seeing memories and events she couldn't possibly have known. When the experience ended, she found herself back in her own body, while the patient had peacefully passed away. The phenomenon suggests that consciousness might not be as individually contained as we assume. If awareness can be shared across different people, if death experiences can be collectively witnessed, then our understanding of personal identity and individual consciousness might be fundamentally incomplete. Medical monitoring during these events shows no unusual brain activity in the observers. Their EEGs remain normal while they report the most profound experiences of their lives. This disconnect between measurable brain function and reported consciousness challenges everything we think we know about how awareness operates. The shared death experience phenomenon implies that dying might not be the solitary journey we assume it to be. It suggests that consciousness might be interconnected in ways we don't understand, that the boundary between self and others might be far more fluid than we realize. The mystery of ball lightning has tormented scientists for centuries, presenting us with a phenomenon that seems to violate multiple laws of physics simultaneously. Witnesses describe glowing spheres of light that float through the air, pass through solid walls, and occasionally explode with devastating force. Yet laboratory attempts to recreate this phenomenon have consistently failed. Ball lightning typically appears during thunderstorms as luminous spheres ranging from golf ball to basketball size. They move slowly and deliberately, often following air currents or electrical conductors, but sometimes seeming to navigate with purpose and intelligence. They can persist for minutes rather than the microseconds of regular lightning, maintaining their structure and energy in ways that current physics cannot explain. The most disturbing aspect of ball lightning is its unpredictable behavior. Some spheres float harmlessly through rooms, causing no damage and generating no heat. Others explode with the force of hand grenades, leaving behind sulfurous odors and electromagnetic disturbances. There seems to be no way to predict which type of encounter a witness will experience. One of the most detailed accounts comes from a Russian scientist who observed ball lightning for over 20 seconds inside his laboratory. He described a sphere about 8 inches in diameter that glowed with internal fire, casting shadows and illuminating the room. The ball moved in a straight line through the air, passed directly through a closed window without breaking the glass, and disappeared outside with a small popping sound. This account highlights the impossible physics of ball lightning. How can a plasma hot enough to glow maintain its structure for minutes instead of milliseconds? How can it pass through solid matter without affecting it? How can it move against wind currents and seem to navigate around obstacles? Recent research has proposed various theories involving electromagnetic fields, microwave cavities, and exotic plasma states, but none can fully explain the observed behaviors. Each proposed mechanism solves some aspects of the mystery while creating new impossibilities. The phenomenon becomes even more mysterious when we consider its effects on electronics. Ball lightning can cause permanent damage to electrical devices, erasing computer hard drives and stopping electronic equipment. Yet it can also pass through the same devices without causing any harm. This selective interaction suggests a level of complexity that we're nowhere close to understanding. Perhaps most unsettling is the apparent intelligence displayed by some ball lightning. Multiple witnesses have reported spheres that seem to explore their environment, hovering near objects of interest, avoiding obstacles, and occasionally following people. If ball lightning is simply a natural electrical phenomenon, why does it sometimes behave as if it's curious about its surroundings? The Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts represents one of the most concentrated areas of paranormal activity in North America, where multiple unexplained phenomena occur within a clearly defined geographical region. This 200-square-mile area has been the site of more documented anomalous events than anywhere else in the United States, creating a nexus of impossibilities that defies rational explanation. Within the triangle's boundaries, researchers have documented UFO sightings, Bigfoot encounters, phantom animals, ghostly apparitions, and mysterious lights with such frequency that local police departments have stopped filing reports about unusual incidents. The area seems to generate its own reality, where normal physics and biology take a back seat to something far stranger. The triangle is anchored by several locations of particular strangeness. The Hockomock Swamp, known to Native Americans as the place where spirits dwell, serves as the triangle's dark heart. Here, witnesses report animals that shouldn't exist, giant snakes in a region with no large serpent species, massive birds with wingspans exceeding any known species, and creatures that seem to be assembled from parts of different animals. The Freetown State Forest, within the triangle, has become notorious for its phantom hitchhikers, apparitions that flag down motorists, climb into vehicles, and vanish during the journey. These encounters are so common that local residents avoid driving through the area alone at night. The consistency of these reports, often from credible witnesses, including police officers and emergency responders, suggests something more than folklore or imagination. What makes the Bridgewater Triangle particularly disturbing is the interconnected nature of its phenomena. UFO sightings correlate with increases in animal disappearances. Bigfoot encounters cluster around areas of intense electromagnetic anomalies. Phantom animal sightings occur in locations where mysterious lights are most frequently reported. It's as if the entire region operates under different rules, where cause and effect follow patterns we don't understand. Geological surveys have revealed several unusual features within the triangle. Magnetic compass readings become unreliable in certain areas. Ground-penetrating radar shows massive underground voids that don't correspond to any known cave systems. Electromagnetic field measurements fluctuate wildly without any identifiable source. The historical record adds another layer of mystery. Native American tribes considered the area cursed long before European settlement. Colonial records document strange events dating back to the 1600s. The consistency of anomalous reports across centuries suggests that whatever affects this region has been operating for far longer than modern civilization. Local researchers have established monitoring stations throughout the triangle, using sophisticated equipment to track the various phenomena. Their data reveals patterns that make no sense according to conventional science. Electromagnetic spikes precede animal encounters. Temperature drops correlate with apparition sightings. Radiation levels fluctuate in cycles that don't match any known natural phenomena. The Bridgewater Triangle forces us to consider whether certain locations on Earth might operate as windows or doorways to something else. The concentration of impossible events within such a specific geographical area suggests that reality itself might be more flexible than we assume, that some places might exist at the intersection of multiple dimensions or states of being. Moving from geographical anomalies to temporal mysteries, we encounter the phenomenon of time slips, events where individuals suddenly find themselves experiencing different time periods, often with no memory of how the transition occurred. These aren't cases of confusion or hallucination. They're documented incidents where people interact with environments and individuals from different eras, only to find themselves return to their proper time with physical evidence of their impossible journey. The most famous case occurred in 1901, when two English academics, Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, visited the Palace of Versailles. As they walked through the gardens, they noticed the atmosphere becoming increasingly oppressive and dreamlike. The landscape began to change subtly, and they encountered people in period clothing who seemed unaware of their presence. The women found themselves witnessing what appeared to be the French court of Marie Antoinette, complete with elaborate costumes, formal gardens in their original state, and architecture that had been altered or destroyed centuries earlier. They observed a woman sketching near a cottage who matched historical descriptions of Marie Antoinette herself, dressed in clothing authentic to the 1780s. When they attempted to retrace their steps, days later, they found that the paths they had taken no longer existed. The cottage where they had seen the sketching woman was gone, replaced by different landscaping. research revealed that their descriptions perfectly matched the palace grounds as they had appeared over a century earlier, including details that weren't documented in any publicly available sources. Similar cases have been reported worldwide, often involving locations with intense historical significance. Witnesses describe stepping into environments that match historical periods they couldn't possibly have knowledge about, interacting with individuals who dress, speak, and behave according to the customs of different eras. What makes time slips particularly unsettling is the physical evidence they sometimes leave behind. People return with objects that shouldn't exist, photographs that show historical scenes, and detailed knowledge of events and locations that they had no previous access to. Some report injuries or marks that correspond to dangers present in the historical period they experienced, but not in their current time. The phenomenon suggests that time might not be as linear as we assume, that past events might continue to exist in some parallel state that occasionally intersects with our present reality. If consciousness can slip between different temporal periods, what does this mean for our understanding of causality, memory, and the nature of existence itself? These mysteries represent just a fraction of the inexplicable phenomena that continue to challenge our understanding of reality. Each case forces us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that our scientific models are incomplete, that consciousness might operate by principles we haven't discovered, and that the universe itself might be far stranger than we ever imagined. The consistency of these reports across cultures, time periods, and geographical locations suggests that we're dealing with genuine phenomena rather than collective delusions or hoaxes. Yet their impossibility, according to our current understanding, leaves us in a disturbing position, acknowledging that reality contains elements that our most advanced science cannot explain or predict. As we continue to document these mysteries, patterns begin to emerge that are perhaps even more unsettling than the individual cases themselves. Many of these phenomena seem to involve consciousness in ways that challenge our materialist understanding of awareness and identity. They suggest that the boundary between mind and reality might be far more fluid than we assume, that consciousness itself might be the key to understanding these impossible events. But perhaps the most disturbing realization is that despite all our technological advances, despite our sophisticated instruments and theories, we remain as baffled by these mysteries as our ancestors were centuries ago. The questions they raise about the nature of reality, consciousness, and existence itself continue to haunt us, reminding us that for all our scientific progress, the deepest mysteries of our universe remain completely beyond our comprehension. What perhaps makes these mysteries even more disturbing is how they seem to cluster around certain individuals, as if some people are magnets for the impossible. These aren't random occurrences happening to anyone. They consistently happen to specific types of people, in specific circumstances, following patterns that we're only beginning to recognize. The phenomenon of psychic archaeology represents one of the most documented yet inexplicable abilities of the human mind. Individuals with no formal training in archaeology or history have repeatedly led researchers to significant historical discoveries by claiming to receive visions or impressions from ancient sites. These aren't lucky guesses or educated speculation. These are detailed, accurate descriptions of buried structures, artifacts, and historical events that couldn't possibly be known through conventional means. Stefan Schwartz has documented dozens of cases where psychics have provided archaeologists with precise information about excavation sites. In one remarkable case, a psychic described the layout of a Roman villa that had been completely buried for over 1,500 years. She provided details about room arrangements, decorative elements, and even the location of specific artifacts. When archaeologists excavated based on her directions, they found everything exactly as she had described, including a mosaic floor with the precise pattern and colors she had sketched months before the dig began. What makes psychic archaeology truly impossible to dismiss is the specificity and accuracy of the information provided. These individuals don't make vague predictions about finding something old in the ground. They provide architectural blueprints, describe specific historical events, and pinpoint the exact locations of artifacts with an accuracy that exceeds what professional archaeologists achieve using ground-penetrating radar and other advanced technologies. The most disturbing cases involve psychics who claim to experience the lives of ancient people directly, feeling their emotions, witnessing their daily activities, and understanding their languages without any prior knowledge of the cultures involved. They describe historical periods with such intimate detail that scholars who have devoted their entire careers to studying these civilizations are left speechless by the accuracy of seemingly impossible insights. Dr. Jeffrey Goodman documented a case where a psychic described the construction techniques used in a prehistoric Native American settlement with such precision that it revolutionized understanding of the engineering capabilities of the culture involved. She described tool-making processes, architectural methods, and social structures that weren't confirmed by conventional archaeology until years later, when advanced techniques finally revealed evidence supporting every detail of her impossible knowledge. The phenomenon suggests that information about past events might somehow be embedded in physical locations, accessible to certain individuals through mechanisms that science hasn't identified. If consciousness can directly access historical information without going through normal sensory channels, what does this mean for our understanding of how memory, knowledge, and awareness actually operate? Moving from archaeological mysteries to medical impossibilities, we encounter the phenomenon of miraculous healings that occur at specific religious sites around the world. Lourdes, France, has become the most documented example, where the Catholic Church has officially verified 69 cases of instantaneous healings that cannot be explained by medical science. These aren't cases of gradual recovery or psychological improvement. We're talking about advanced cancers disappearing overnight, severed spinal cords regenerating completely, and genetic disorders reversing themselves in ways that violate everything we understand about human biology. The medical documentation is exhaustive, with before and after X-rays, CT scans, and laboratory results that show changes that should be impossible. Dr. Jacqueline Duffin, a medical historian who has studied the Lourdes healings extensively, describes cases that read like science fiction. Patients with terminal diagnoses arrive at the site near death, experience some form of spiritual encounter, and leave with no trace of their diseases. Follow-up examinations months and years later confirm that the healings are permanent and complete. What makes these cases truly inexplicable is the speed and totality of the recovery. Cancer cells don't just disappear, they seem to transform back into healthy tissue instantaneously. Damaged organs regenerate complex structures that took years to develop originally. Genetic defects that have affected individuals since birth suddenly correct themselves at the cellular level. The medical establishment struggles to address these phenomena because they occur within religious contexts that science typically dismisses. Yet the documentation is undeniable, with medical records from respected institutions confirming changes that violate fundamental principles of biology and medicine. The healings happen too quickly for any known biological process, affect conditions that have no cure, and leave behind no explanation for how such dramatic transformations could occur. Even more puzzling is the selectivity of these healings. Thousands of people visit these sites seeking cures, but only a tiny percentage experience miraculous recovery. There's no pattern to predict who will be healed. It happens to believers and skeptics alike, to the devout and the desperate, following no logic that medical or religious authorities can identify. The phenomenon forces us to confront the possibility that human biology might be more malleable than we assume, that consciousness or spiritual states might directly influence physical reality in ways that exceed our current understanding of the mind-body connection. If belief or spiritual experience can instantly restructure damaged tissue, what does this tell us about the true nature of healing and the relationship between mental states and physical health? From miraculous healings, we turn to the opposite extreme, the phenomenon of psychosomatic death, where perfectly healthy individuals die from belief alone. This isn't the gradual decline of depression or anxiety-related illness. These are cases where people die within hours or days of becoming convinced that they're doomed, despite showing no physical signs of disease or injury. The most documented cases come from cultures that practice sympathetic magic or cursing rituals. Individuals who believe they've been hexed or cursed often die precisely when the curse is supposed to take effect, even when they're under medical supervision and showing no symptoms of illness. Their bodies simply shut down, as if responding to some invisible command that overrides all biological imperatives for survival. Dr. Walter Cannon studied this phenomenon extensively, documenting cases where victims of supposed curses died from what he termed voodoo death. These individuals experienced rapid onset of symptoms, including extreme fear, loss of appetite, and complete social withdrawal, followed by death within a matter of days. Autopsies revealed no cause of death. Their organs were healthy. They showed no signs of disease or poisoning, yet they were undeniably dead. What makes psychosomatic death truly disturbing is how it demonstrates the power of belief to override biology. These individuals don't die from fear or stress in the conventional sense. They die because they believe they must die. And that belief somehow becomes physically real, despite contradicting every survival instinct and biological function. Modern medicine has documented similar cases in hospital settings, where patients who receive terminal diagnoses die much more quickly than their condition should allow, while others who remain unaware of their prognosis survive far longer than medical predictions suggest. The knowledge of doom seems to accelerate death in ways that pure biology cannot explain. The phenomenon suggests that consciousness might have direct control over biological processes that we assume are automatic and unconscious. If belief can literally cause death in healthy individuals, what does this mean for our understanding of the relationship between mind and body? How much of what we consider fixed biological reality might actually be subject to mental influence? In the realm of shared consciousness, we encounter the disturbing phenomenon of mass hysteria events that seem to spread impossible symptoms across large populations. These aren't cases of people imagining symptoms or copying behaviors they've observed. These are physical manifestations that affect hundreds or thousands of individuals simultaneously, creating symptoms that have no known cause and leave no lasting trace. The Tanganyika laughter epidemic of 1962 represents one of the most extensively documented cases. It began with a few students at a girls' school who started laughing uncontrollably. Within hours, the condition had spread to dozens of students, causing the school to close. But instead of ending there, the laughter epidemic spread to other schools and communities across the region, ultimately affecting over 1,000 people over several months. The affected individuals weren't simply amused or happy. They experienced uncontrollable laughter that lasted for hours or days, accompanied by crying, fainting, and respiratory distress. They were unable to eat, sleep, or function normally while in the grip of this condition. Medical examinations found no physical cause, no toxins, no infections that could explain the symptoms. What makes mass hysteria events truly inexplicable is how they spread faster than any known mechanism of transmission. People who had no contact with affected individuals suddenly developed identical symptoms. The condition jumped across geographical boundaries, affected people who spoke different languages, and followed no pattern that epidemiologists could trace. These mysteries stand as monuments to our ignorance, reminding us that despite centuries of scientific progress, we remain children fumbling in the dark corners of reality. Each phenomenon challenges not just our understanding of physics or biology, but our fundamental assumptions about the nature of existence itself. Perhaps the most unsettling truth is that these mysteries aren't disappearing. They're multiplying, growing stranger, becoming more impossible with each passing year.